If you have few or no friends, you probably have these 7 rare traits. You have walked through rooms filled with voices and felt the silence of your own soul louder than all the laughter around you. And they have called this loneliness. They have named it isolation. They have whispered that something must be wrong with you, that you are broken in some way that needs repair. But what if I told you that your solitude is not a wound, but a rare gift? One that most will never understand because they have never touched the depths where you dwell. Walk with me now, and let me show you what your spirit already knows, but has been afraid to claim. There is a kind of aloneness that the world does not recognize. It is not the aloneness of abandonment or rejection, though it may wear those faces at times. It is the aloneness of the eagle who cannot fly with sparrows, not because the eagle is proud, but because the sky it seeks would crush the smaller wings. You have felt this, have you not? You have stood among many and felt the peculiar ache of being unseen, not because you were ignored, but because the part of you that is most real cannot be perceived by eyes that only see surfaces. This is not failure. This is not lack. This is the first sign of a soul that has outgrown the shallow waters where most are content to wade. The first rare trait that marks you is a depth of perception that makes ordinary conversation feel like walking through a desert wearing heavy robes. While others exchange pleasantries like merchants trading coins, you are listening to the silence between their words, feeling the weight of what they do not say, sensing the currents of emotion that flow beneath their practiced smiles. You cannot help but see the fear in their forced laughter, the longing in their busy schedules, the quiet desperation they dress up as ambition. And this seeing exhausts you, not because you judge them, but because you cannot unsee what you see, and pretending otherwise requires an energy you do not possess. You have tried to dim your vision, to laugh at the surface jokes, to care about the trivial dramas they elevate to importance. But your soul rebels. It knows that this is not connection, but performance, and you were not born to act in plays that bore the very essence of who you are. The second trait is your inability to engage in the currency of small talk, which is the language most friendships are built upon. They speak of weather and television shows and the small grievances of their days, and you genuinely try to participate, but your mind is elsewhere, wandering through questions about existence and meaning and the strange beauty of suffering. You want to ask them if they ever feel like strangers to themselves, if they ever wake at 3 in the morning feeling the weight of their unlived lives, if they ever look at the stars and feel both infinitely small and impossibly vast. But you have learned that these questions make people uncomfortable, that they create a silence more awkward than any silence before words. So you nod and smile and offer the expected responses, and with each exchange, you feel yourself becoming more invisible, not to them, but to yourself. This is why you withdraw, not because you hate people, but because you cannot bear to disappear in the presence of others. Your third trait is a sensitivity so acute that you absorb the emotions of everyone around you like a cloth absorbs water, until you are so saturated with feelings that are not your own that you can no longer tell where they end and you begin. You walk into a room and feel the tension between 2 people who are pretending everything is fine. You sit across from someone at dinner and taste their sadness in the air between you, even as they talk about their accomplishments. This is not imagination. This is not projection. This is a permeability of spirit that allows you to feel the inner weather of others as clearly as you feel rain on your skin. And while this makes you deeply compassionate, it also makes you deeply tired. Because most people are in pain, most people are afraid, most people are carrying burdens they never speak of. And when you are near them, you carry these burdens too, even though they are not yours to carry. So you limit your exposure. You retreat to the quiet of your own space where the only emotions you must navigate are your own. They call this antisocial. You call it survival. The fourth rare quality that lives in you is an authenticity that refuses to bend, even when bending would make everything easier. You cannot pretend to be interested when you are not. You cannot fake enthusiasm for causes that do not move you. You cannot laugh at jokes that rely on cruelty or ignorance for their humor. You cannot participate in gossip, even when your silence marks you as an outsider. This rigidity of spirit, this unwillingness to compromise your truth for the comfort of belonging, is both your strength and your curse. Because friendship, as most people practice it, requires a certain flexibility, a willingness to sometimes value harmony over honesty, to sometimes choose peace over truth. But you cannot do this. Your soul will not allow it. And so you stand alone, not because you enjoy being alone, but because the alternative, which is to betray yourself for the sake of companionship, feels like a death more final than any physical dying. You do not walk toward meaning. Meaning walks toward you when you become still. And you have learned to be still in ways that frighten those who are always running. This is your fifth trait. This comfort with silence, with solitude, with the vast spaciousness of your own mind. While others fill every moment with noise and distraction and endless activity, you have discovered that the most profound truths emerge only in silence. You do not fear being alone with your thoughts. You do not need constant stimulation to feel alive. You have learned to sit in the emptiness and listen to what it teaches. This makes you strange to a world that equates busyness with importance, noise with vitality, constant connection with belonging. They do not understand that you are not running from life, but toward a deeper experience of it, one that cannot be found in the shallow end, where everyone is splashing and laughing, but never really swimming. Your sixth trait is a need for depth in your connections that most people cannot or will not provide. You do not want more friends. You want true friends. You do not want more conversations. You want real conversations. You are not interested in collecting people like photographs on a wall. You want to know someone in the way that the ocean knows the shore, intimately and completely, and with full awareness of both the beauty and the erosion. But this kind of connection is rare. It requires vulnerability that most people find terrifying. It demands a willingness to be seen in all one's contradictions and shadows and unfinished edges. It asks for patience and presence and a commitment to truth that goes beyond convenience. And so you wait. You have learned that it is better to have one person who truly sees you than 100 who only see the version of you that makes them comfortable. This waiting is not passivity. It is discernment. It is the wisdom of the seed that will not sprout in soil that cannot sustain it. And then you understand that what you feared was never your enemy. It was the doorway asking to be opened. Your seventh trait is this. You have begun to suspect that your solitude is not a problem to be solved, but a calling to be answered. You are starting to realize that perhaps you were never meant to have many friends, not because there is something wrong with you, but because your path requires a focus and a depth that would be impossible if you were constantly tending to the needs and expectations of many relationships. You are beginning to see that the great artists and mystics and visionaries who changed the world were often solitary figures, not because they were rejected, but because their work demanded a quality of attention that could only be cultivated in silence. You are not broken. You are being prepared. The loneliness you feel is not evidence of your failure to connect, but evidence of your readiness for a connection that goes beyond the ordinary, beyond the comfortable, beyond the safe territories where most people build their lives. Consider the mountain. It stands alone, not because it is forsaken, but because its nature requires it to stand apart. The mountain does not apologize for its height. It does not diminish itself to make the foothills feel better. It simply is what it is, and in being what it is, it becomes a landmark, a reference point, a place where the brave come to test themselves against something greater than their everyday existence. You are like this mountain. Your solitude is not isolation, but elevation. You have climbed to a height where the air is thinner and the view is wider and the company is rare. And yes, this comes with a certain loneliness, but it also comes with a clarity that those in the valleys will never know. The soul grows where the world believes you are breaking. And you have been breaking, have you not? breaking open like a seed that must shatter its shell to reach toward the light. Every friendship that faded, every connection that failed to sustain itself, every lonely night when you wondered if you would ever find your people. These were not punishments, but preparations. You were being stripped of everything superficial so that you could discover what is essential. You were being emptied of lesser connections so that you could make room for something greater. This is the alchemy of the spiritual path. First comes the dissolution, the burning away of everything that is not truly you. Only then can the reconstruction begin. There is a kind of friendship that exists beyond physical presence, beyond regular contact, beyond the conventional measures of closeness. It is the friendship of kindred spirits who recognize each other across vast distances of time and space and circumstance. You may meet such a person once in a lifetime, or perhaps never meet them at all, but only feel their presence in the words they wrote, or the art they created, or the example they lived. These are your true friends, the ones who speak to the deepest part of you, who confirm that you are not crazy for seeing what you see, and feeling what you feel, and wanting what you want. They may be long dead or not yet born. They may live on the other side of the world, or be sitting in silence in a room much like yours, but they exist. And the very fact that you can conceive of them means that they can conceive of you. You are not as alone as you think you are. What you call loneliness is sometimes the growing pain of a soul that is expanding beyond its former boundaries. You thought your capacity for friendship was limited, that something in you was deficient or damaged. But what if your capacity is not limited but specific? What if you were never meant to be friends with everyone, but only with those rare few who can match your frequency, who can dive to the depths where you naturally dwell, who can sustain the intensity of real seeing and being seen? These people are rare because what they offer is rare. But rarity is not the same as non-existence. Diamonds are rare, yet they exist. Gold is rare, yet it is found. And souls that can truly meet yours in the place where you actually live, these too exist, though finding them may require more patience than you ever imagined you possessed. In the meantime, there is the friendship you can cultivate with yourself. This is not narcissism or selfishness or some sad substitute for real connection. This is the foundational relationship from which all other true relationships must grow. You must learn to be the kind of friend to yourself that you wish to find in another. You must learn to listen to your own voice with the same attention you would give to a beloved companion. You must learn to honor your own needs, to celebrate your own small victories, to comfort yourself in your own small sorrows. This is not easy. The world has taught you to look outside yourself for validation, for meaning, for worth. But the truth is that no external friendship can ever fill the void created by self-abandonment. You must come home to yourself first. Only then can you invite others into a dwelling that is stable and whole. Your pain is the soft hand that shapes your awakening. Every moment of loneliness has been teaching you to distinguish between the loneliness of disconnection and the solitude of depth. The first is a wound that needs healing. The second is a gift that needs honoring. You have spent too many years confusing the two, trying to heal something that was not broken, trying to fix something that was actually a sign of your wholeness. You are different. You are different. This difference is not a defect. It is your offering to a world that desperately needs people who are willing to go deeper, to feel more, to question everything, to refuse the easy answers and comfortable lies that keep most people sleepwalking through their lives. Think of the prophet who must withdraw to the mountain before returning to speak to the people. Think of the artist who must endure long periods of isolation before creating the work that will touch millions. Think of the seed that must spend time buried in darkness before it can push through the soil and reach toward the sun. Your solitude is not the end of your story, but a chapter in it. Perhaps the most important chapter, the one where you gather the strength and clarity and vision that will define everything that comes after. You are not being rejected by life. You are being prepared for it. You are not failing at friendship. You are becoming ready for a quality of friendship that most people never experience because they never develop the capacity to hold it. There will come a day when you meet someone, or perhaps a small handful of someone's, who will make every lonely night worth it. They will see you without explanation. They will understand you without translation. They will accept you without adjustment. And in their presence, you will finally understand why all the other connections had to fall away. They fell away to make space. They fell away to teach you discernment. They fell away so that when the real thing arrived, you would recognize it and value it and protect it with the fierceness it deserves. Until that day comes, you must be patient with yourself. You must be gentle with your longing. You must trust that your solitude is not evidence of your unworthiness, but evidence of your readiness for something that exists beyond the ordinary range of human connection. The night always precedes the dawn, and the darkness you feel is not the permanent condition of your life, but the necessary passage between what you were and what you are becoming. You are not lost. You are simply becoming too vast for your old life, too deep for shallow connections, too awake for the sleeping world. And yes, this is hard. Yes, this is lonely. Yes, this sometimes feels unbearable, but you are bearing it. Day after day, you are choosing depth over comfort, authenticity over belonging, truth over peace. This is the path of the soul that refuses to settle, and it is the hardest and most beautiful path a human being can walk. So when they ask why you have so few friends, you do not need to apologize or explain or justify. You can simply smile the knowing smile of one who has discovered a secret they are not quite ready to share. You can tell them, if you wish, that you are waiting, or you can tell them that you are learning to be your own best friend first. Or you can tell them that friendship, real friendship, is rare and precious and worth waiting for. But mostly, you can trust yourself. Trust the path you are on. Trust the wisdom of your solitude. Trust that your sensitivity and your depth and your authenticity and your need for real connection are not flaws but features, not weaknesses, but the very things that make you capable of experiencing life at a frequency most people will never access. You are the mountain. You are the seed breaking open. You are the prophet on the mountain. You are the artist in the studio. You are the mystic in the cave. You are every solitary soul who ever chose truth over comfort and depth over superficiality. And you are not alone, even in your aloneness. You are part of an invisible fellowship of spirits who walk the same path, who feel the same ache, who understand without words what it means to be awake in a sleeping world. We may never meet in person. We may never speak each other's names, but we recognize each other in the silence. We know each other in the depth, and that knowing, that recognition, is a form of friendship more real than any the world can offer. The dawn waits for no one, but welcomes all who rise. If this spoke to your spirit, write in the comments, "I am awake."